Live from the No Panic Zone, I am Steve Gruber. I'm America's voice, always delivering an equitable, diverse, and inclusive broadcast using only environmentally just topics that will maintain maximum sustainable, socially correct, and earth-friendly conversations. And for the records, no animals have been harmed, at least not yet in this program. But let's get started. Here are three big things you need to know right now. Number one, the big squeeze on to get Don Lemon fired from the nation's former news network, Chicken Noodle News. The demands come after a series of sexist remarks aimed at Nikki Haley, a Republican. Number two, the staff at Vanderbilt is apologizing. There's been a staff shakeup following an AI-generated campus-wide email about the shooting at Michigan State University. We'll explain. And number three, it is time to go shopping. We're going to go on a make-believe shopping spree today, and we will start with an incredible amount of American taxpayer dollars just to see what kind of things we can buy with this kind of cash. It's a fortune. And to give you a very clear understanding of the size and scope of the money we're sending into a war that is not ours to fight. How much money? $200 billion to be exact, which came as a shock to me because I thought we were at about half that amount, and all of a sudden it doubled, and nobody seems to care or know why. But I care, and I want to know why. $200 billion is the amount of money that Joe Biden, along with compliant warmongers from both the Democrat and Republican side of the aisle, have already pledged to one of the most corrupt governments on earth, Ukraine. The money train keeps rolling to Kyiv from Washington to ostensibly help the Ukrainians stave off the Russian invasion that began a year ago, but the money doesn't appear to have any strings attached at all. And because Ukraine is the number one money laundering nation on earth, there's simply no way to honestly or accurately monitor the money to have any idea where it's ending up. Where is it going? Nobody's following it. We're literally throwing money into a deep black hole and hoping for the best. And as I often say, hope is not a plan. In fact, it's a disaster because it's nothing at all. We've learned this week from Joe Biden himself, who made an alleged surprise visit to Kyiv yesterday, that we will be paying for Ukraine's pension plans, welfare programs, rent, and a lot more. And at the same time, the people in East Palestine, Ohio, are told to go pound sand after that train disaster there. But maybe I'm just nitpicking. Yeah, maybe I'm just nitpicking. While millions of Americans struggling to pay all sorts of bills and suffering, President Joe Biden's meandering around Europe and says that you, the very generous American taxpayers, will pick up the living expenses of people halfway around this world. Listen.
And to deliver much-needed humanitarian assistance as well as food, water, medicine, shelter, and other aid to Ukrainians displaced by Russia's war, and provide aid for those seeking refuge in other countries from Ukraine. It's also going to help schools and hospitals open. It's going to allow pensions and social support to be paid to the Ukrainian people so they have something in their pocket. It's also going to provide critical resources to address food shortages around the globe.
Oh, yeah. So are you ready for the shopping spree? I told you I'd give you some examples of how America could invest the $200 billion we're giving to a country in Eastern Europe that we have no defense treaty with, that is not in NATO, and that should be getting its support from its European neighbors. But like always, we get the bill, meaning you and me. The American taxpayers get the bill. Okay, here we go. The last U.S. nuclear aircraft carrier put into service was the USS Gerald R. Ford. That was about 5 years ago. It cost $13 billion. So with the money we're sending to Ukraine, we could buy about 15 of those. And with China's Navy getting bigger, more powerful, more dangerous every single day, that sounds like something we could use right now. We all know that nuclear energy is expanding all over Europe. In fact, France is building 14 nuclear reactors right now. And it's funny, but the United States could build 14 of those too for $200 billion. We all know the southern border is a disaster and that more than 100,000 people are dying a year from the illegal drugs flooding into our country, along with millions of illegal aliens. Well, a state-of-the-art border wall, state-of-the-art, would cost, on the high end, $12 billion. We could build 17 border walls for the kind of money we're shipping to Hunter Biden Ukraine. Oh, and the list goes on. Because just about everyone agrees that we need better health care in America. Well, listen to this. A brand new state-of-the-art hospital like the one that Stanford University opened a couple of years ago was $2 billion. So we could buy 100 of those to treat Americans, but we sent the $200 billion to Ukraine instead. And how about infrastructure? We could build 25,000 miles of brand new interstate highways in America, and maybe more with $200 billion. And instead, we gave it away. We gave away $200 billion for a proxy war Another war the majority of Americans want nothing to do with, according to recent polling. And you could think about it this way. How about this? We could build that state-of-the-art border wall, $12 billion. Pick up 5 nuclear power plants at $14 billion each. Add 5 more nuclear aircraft carriers to the U.S. Navy at $13 billion apiece, and toss in 25 brand-new state-of-the-art hospitals sprinkled all over America, and add 500 miles of new interstate highways, still not spend $200 billion. In fact, we would have about $3 billion or more left, because I would certainly ask for the volume discount. Do you understand now how much money we have given to a country that Joe Biden and its President Volodymyr Zelensky strolled through yesterday, even with air raid sirens screaming? Sirens they ignored. Why? Because it was all for show. The more money we give, the more I ask, is this the biggest hush money payment in world history? Does any of this make sense? No, none of it. I thought we had learned the painful lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan, but it doesn't look that way, because the feeble warmonger-in-chief was at it again Tuesday, beating the drums of war, this time in Poland. Joe Biden once again tried to include Ukraine in NATO, but of course it's not. And yet, we're spending our grandkids' money to protect that country's border, its pensions, its infrastructure, its hospitals, its schools, while neglecting our own. Listen to this nonsense.
And so I made it clear that the comments of the United States and our allies as part of the commitment is real, and that a year later, I would argue NATO is stronger than it's ever been. As I told President Zelensky when we spoke in Kyiv yesterday, I can proudly say that our support for Ukraine remains unwavering. And as I told our Russian counterpart, it's a while now, I said, you're seeking the Finlandization of NATO. You're going to get the NATOization of Finland. And it turns out I didn't know Sweden was coming along as well. But all kidding aside, I think we're in if we keep our head and we are focused, I think we're in a better position than we've ever been.
Yeah. Are we? Are we in a better position than we've ever been? I don't think so. $200 billion. Nuclear power plants, brand new hospitals, a bigger, more dangerous blue water navy to defend ourselves against the communist Chinese. All the things we could do. Plus, maybe help out homeless veterans, set up some food banks, a whole host of things we could do with $200 billion. And yes, protect our border, not Ukraine's. It is outrageous from top to bottom. I'm sorry, but the Republicans that support this are wrong. The Democrats that support this are wrong. There's no strategic interest. I had somebody ask me yesterday, do you care? Would you care if Russia took over Ukraine? No. Doesn't really impact me. I'm not laundering money. And the wheat will leave. The wheat left when Russia was in charge there before. It's not our war. It's not. It's not our fight. I'll take a break because I have more with Joe Biden and so much more after this. It's the Steve Gruber Show.